When it comes to virtual teaching, one thing I think a lot of us can agree on is that online everything slows down, right? It takes twice as long to get anything done. So how can we teach writing and editing to our students in a way that saves time and is equally effective to the entire class? Well, maybe we can get by with a little help from our friends. Stay tuned and let's talk about it. Hi, and welcome to Classroom Confidential. My name is Christopher Youngren, and I'm a middle school ELA teacher in Tucson, Arizona. If this is your first time joining me, then hey, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. So when it comes to peer editing, teachers have met with varying degrees of success. Some find that it's not very effective because students only give the most superficial types of comments for the good and bad. But I believe there are some real benefits to using peer editing, especially in a virtual learning type scenario. So let's talk about a few. Now, the first strength of peer editing, I believe, is tied to the old adage, you teach best what you most need to learn. When you have students focusing on the work of others, it reminds them of the things they need to concentrate on in their own writing. Sometimes they're too close to the source to really see what's missing or what can be improved upon. But when they're looking at a peer's writing, then all of a sudden, oh, this stands out or that stands out, and they can take that knowledge and they can apply it back to their own work. It also serves to strengthen the foundation of trust in your classroom community by allowing the students the freedom to exchange ideas and give each other good, strong, supportive, kind, and constructive criticism. It really cultivates that idea of being there for each other and really helping each other make their work the best it can be. It makes kids feel like somebody has their back, and not just the teacher, but the other students in class as well. It also allows students the freedom to interact with each other away from the prying eyes and ears of the teacher. Something that I think they're really missing during this pandemic is time alone to discuss and socialize and find their own voices and feel empowered without the constant nudging of the teacher. So giving them this brief time utilizing breakout rooms and what have you via Zoom is, I think, a real advantage, and it gives them this sense of kind of independence that they don't get when we're all together in the same room with the teacher observing absolutely everything. So while there are definite advantages to using peer editing, there are also some pitfalls that we want to avoid. And one of the biggest ones is students giving each other kind of vague and nebulous, superficial feedback. Stuff like, I like the way you told your story. It was good how you used the words to tell the story in a way that the story was told with words and stuff. Or, I liked your characters. Your characters, they talked the way that they talked in order to be characters who were talking. So in order to avoid this kind of non-feedback feedback, you need to give your students very specific things to look for. For example, in my class recently, we've been working on short stories with a twist ending. So I have them look for things like, what type of lead did this writer use? Are the characters clearly defined? Is the setting understood? Is it a clearly understood conflict between these two characters? Are the transitions used effectively? And finally, is the twist ending supported by the story in a way that it doesn't come completely out of left field, but blends seamlessly to create an effective whole story? So by giving them these parameters, it's giving them very specific things to focus on, so that when it comes time for providing feedback, they're able to say more than just good job, dude. It was a nice story and stuff. It's also important to remind kids to be kind, to be supportive, to be constructive with their criticism. When you say criticism, a lot of kids hear critical. They don't hear analytical. And so you want to make sure that the feedback they're offering is in a form that is caring, because sometimes you can run into situations where kids are not being very nice, and not because they're trying to lash out or be vindictive or mean, but because they just don't understand. And so that's why it's very, very important that before you put them together, before you even engage in peer editing, that you convey to them that it's so important that we are all in this together and we are all looking out for one another to help build each other up rather than tear each other down. So a couple of adjustments you're going to need to make if you're teaching virtually via Zoom or another online meeting platform. First of all, obviously, use breakout rooms. I like using groups of 3. And that way, if unfortunately you get into like a he said, she said type scenario where things don't go so well, you have a third party there to be observing. So I always do at least groups of 3, usually not bigger than 4. I want to kind of keep the groups small and contained. You want to enable screen sharing so that when they're reading, when they're sharing their work with the other students can be reading along as well. I think it's very effective to not just be able to hear it, but be able to read it so you can see whether or not things have been punctuated correctly and formatted correctly. And finally, after giving them some time to work together in small groups, I bring everybody back together, either in person or on Zoom. And I have people share some of the things that they thought were really strong about the other people's writing, and also some things that they thought could be stronger. So I have them lead with something that worked, followed by something that could perhaps be improved upon. And this way, they're sharing their insight with the entire class so that everybody can gain something from the experience. Because sometimes you put people together where it doesn't really work and they don't really get anything out of it. And so by coming back together as a whole class and hearing about the experience of others and hearing what kind of feedback they offered, it really helps the entire class understand more about peer editing so that when it comes time to do it again in the future, they will be better prepared. So I hope you try peer editing. Even if it hasn't worked for you in the past, keeping these things in mind, really narrowing your focus and making sure your kids are educated on how to help edit their peers' work, I think will make all the difference in making this a successful experience for everybody. Thanks for joining me today. If you have any tips about peer editing, I would love to hear them. I really do value your input and I would love to hear from you. If you got value from this video, smash that like button for me. I sure would appreciate it. And please subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying my videos, and I'll keep them coming. Stay safe out there, be well, take care of yourselves, and take care of someone else. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.